The gunshots were already echoing down the hallway when the boy folded his hands beneath the desk. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He didn't know what else to do. So he prayed, not out loud, not with words he'd practiced, but with the only sentence his shaking mind could form. Please, don't let them see me. Moments later, footsteps stopped just outside his classroom door, and for reasons no one has ever been able to explain, they walked away. The day began the way most Tuesdays did. Eli Carter hated Tuesdays. They meant math quizzes, overcooked cafeteria pizza, and a long stretch of time before lunch where his legs bounced under his desk no matter how hard he tried to keep still. The classroom smelled faintly of dry erase markers and lemon cleaner. Sunlight slanted through the high windows, catching dust in the air like tiny floating stars. Mrs. Hanley stood at the front of the room, her voice calm and even as she explained fractions on the board. Eli wasn't listening. He was thinking about his dad, who had kissed the top of his head that morning and told him to have a good day. About his mom, who had slipped a folded note into his backpack like she always did. About how, for once, nothing felt wrong. Then the sound came. At first, it didn't register as danger, just a sharp crack somewhere far away, like a locker slamming or a door kicked too hard. A few kids looked up. Someone laughed nervously. Then it came again, and again. The third sound changed everything. Mrs. Hanley stopped mid-sentence. Her marker slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the floor. The room went quiet in a way Eli had never heard before. Too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. Somewhere down the hall, someone screamed. Mrs. Hanley moved fast, faster than Eli had ever seen her move. She crossed the room, locked the door, and turned off the lights in one practiced motion. Her voice dropped low but steady. Everyone, under your desks, now. Chairs scraped, shoes scuffed. Someone began to cry. Eli slid down, heart hammering so hard it hurt, pressing his back against the metal legs of his desk. The classroom vanished into darkness, broken only by thin lines of light beneath the door. The sounds were closer now. Heavy footsteps, shouting. Another crack, louder this time. Eli clamped his hands over his ears, but it didn't help. His whole body shook. He had never been taught what to do in a moment like this. No drill could prepare you for the real thing. And then, without thinking, without planning, without even knowing why, he prayed. Eli didn't bow his head. There wasn't room. His knees were pulled tight to his chest, sneakers flat against the cold tile. The underside of the desk smelled faintly of metal and old gum. His fingers dug into the fabric of his jeans, trying to anchor himself to something solid. His thoughts came in pieces. Mom, Dad, this isn't real. Please don't let me die. The sounds outside the classroom were unmistakable now. Footsteps pounding, a voice yelling something he couldn't understand, another crack that made the floor seem to jump. Someone near him sobbed quietly. Another kid whispered a name over and over like a spell. Eli felt his chest tightening, breath coming too fast. His vision tunneled. Panic rose like a wave, threatening to drown him. And then, somewhere beneath the terror, a memory surfaced. He was 6 years old, sitting on the edge of his bed. His mother knelt beside him, hands folded, eyes closed. She wasn't telling him what to say. She was just telling him to talk. "God already knows," she'd said softly. "You don't have to sound brave." Eli didn't know if God was real in the way grown-ups argued about. He didn't know how prayer was supposed to work, but he remembered how it felt. So he closed his eyes, not tightly, just enough. And in the quiet space inside himself, he spoke, not out loud, not in perfect sentences. "Please, please don't let them see me." He didn't ask to be saved, didn't ask for heroes or sirens or miracles, just that one thing. The classroom was so silent now that he could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Then the footsteps stopped, right outside the door. Eli froze, every muscle locked. His prayer hung unfinished in his chest. A shadow passed beneath the crack of the door. Someone tested the handle. It rattled once, twice. Eli pressed his forehead to his knees. "Please don't let them see me." Time stretched thin, and then the handle stopped moving. The footsteps retreated. One by one they faded down the hallway. The silence that followed was deeper than before. Eli didn't move, didn't breathe. He stayed under the desk, hands still folded, long after the danger passed. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Eli had no way of knowing. The world under the desk had shrunk to breath and heartbeat. Every sound, every distant echo felt like it might be the one that ended everything. Then came something different. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer, overlapping, filling the air with a sound that meant adults were coming. That meant order was trying to return. Mrs. Hanley's voice finally broke the silence. It trembled now. "Stay where you are," she whispered. "Help is here." Police voices followed, firm, controlled. The door opened. Light flooded the room, harsh and blinding. Eli squinted, hands still clenched together. A uniformed officer crouched down, eyes scanning beneath the desks. "It's okay, buddy," the officer said gently. "You're safe now." Eli nodded, though he wasn't sure he believed it yet. When he finally crawled out, his legs felt weak. Around him, kids stood in shock, faces streaked with tears. Some clung to each other, others stared blankly ahead. Later, they would learn how close it had been, how the hallway outside their classroom had been searched, how other doors had been forced open, how, for reasons no one could explain, this one had been passed by. Eli didn't tell anyone about the prayer at first. It felt too fragile, too private. But that night, sitting on his bed, he unfolded his mom's note from that morning. It read, "I'm always praying for you, even when you don't know it." Eli stared at the words for a long time. Then he folded the note carefully and placed it beside his pillow. Eli grew older. The memory never left, but it changed shape. Sometimes it came back in dreams, sometimes in sudden moments of quiet, sometimes when he heard a loud noise and felt his chest tighten before his mind could catch up. He never became loud about faith. He didn't quote verses or argue beliefs. But when life pressed in, when fear crept close, his hands still found each other. Years later, as a grown man, he would be asked about that day, about how he survived. He never claimed certainty, never used big words. He just said this: "I didn't know what to do, so I prayed, and the danger passed." Some people nodded, some shrugged, some searched for explanations. Eli didn't need one. He knew what it felt like under that desk. He knew the stillness that came after the prayer. He knew that something had turned, quietly, invisibly, on his behalf. And that was enough. Some prayers aren't loud. They aren't spoken in churches or written down or remembered word for word. Some prayers happen under desks, in the dark, when there's nothing left to rely on but hope. And sometimes that's enough. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever whispered a prayer in fear and felt something shift? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, follow, and share Lanes and Lanterns for more stories where timing, faith, and unseen help change everything.